I will go ahead and get started. My name is Adam McGill. I'm a project manager and civil engineer with KLJ Engineering. I'm here representing with the North Dakota DOT and the City of Bismarck, the development project on the Bismarck Expressway and Washington intersection. All right, so we have several goals with this meeting here today. First off, I want to tell you about what we're doing with this project. I want to discuss those proposed changes with you, and then I want to hear what you guys have to say. I want to know what your thoughts are on there, whether you think it's a good idea, bad idea, if you have other ideas, and I want to get that into the record. I also want to point out to anybody that is able to, we have a public participation survey over on the side there. The DOT would greatly appreciate it if you have time to fill those out, if you would do that. It looks like this, and it'd take you probably 30 seconds to fill out. So with this project, the tentative schedule that we'll be following, right now we are just starting the design phase of the project. We are finishing up the environmental work on the project. With this summer of 2022, we plan to complete the design. Going this fall, we will be bidding the project, getting prices from contractors, and awarding the project toward the end of fall of this year. And construction will start this following summer of 2023. So you'll have a break from construction this summer in this area. And the main objective of this project is to focus on safety and operations of this intersection of Washington Street and Bismarck Expressway. And we have several focus areas with this that we're looking at. First off, our pedestrian crossings and refuges. Also, we want to address vehicle collision trends. We want to reduce delay, time people are sitting at the intersection, and also minimize confusion from drivers. With this project, there's actually four projects that will be built kind of at a parallel time frame to this project, and they will likely all be awarded to the same contractor and be built by him. So the first project, the one that we're talking about here, is the little yellow spots over by the Washington intersection. But at the same time, there's going to be a mill and overlay and ADA project along all of the expressway past Main Street here, where we'll be fixing the pavement and addressing any curb ramp issues that don't meet ADA requirements along the project. Also, University Drive, 1804 going south, past University of Mary, we'll be addressing the pavement on that with a mill and overlay and looking at all the curb ramps and lighting, upgrading the lighting to LED lighting on it. And as I said, we were focusing this project or this meeting here on the Washington Street intersection. And this is kind of the boundary of the area that we're looking at that will be impacted by this project. So what are we proposing on this? And that's the biggest question all of you have, I'm sure, and that's why you're here today. So this is kind of how it looks today out here. You all are very familiar with that. So starting off, I want to talk about the expressway and what changes are going to happen along expressway here. So the existing layout of the intersection, you can see that there's some kind of strange things going on. We have this existing skew where we have cars going through here. It doesn't line up with the receiving lanes, and people have to kind of turn an awkward direction in the intersection. We also have 3 through lanes. The third lane starts right here and merges in right here. Nobody really wants to use it on the south side, so we have 3 turn lanes there. It's kind of an awkward configuration, provides some confusion that we want to address. So this is kind of tentatively what we're thinking that we want to change it to. Specifically, if we look at the intersection here and on Expressway, we want to align the intersection so that cars intuitively can just follow it straight through and they don't need that awkward change going through the intersection. And then we get the extra space to accomplish that by removing that third lane I showed you on the south side here. That gives us extra space to change the configuration of the intersection and have minimal impacts. We're keeping the outside curb line without any changes throughout the whole project. Actually, there's a little bit of curb line change here where we're bringing the curb line into the roadway more, so there's more green space. But other than that, we're basically trying to match existing out here as far as the outside. And it's only the median curbs, the median islands that will be changing out here. Also, we want to focus on some pedestrian facilities that we have out here. So as you all probably know, the pedestrian facilities crossing Expressway are very mediocre. They're very tiny. There's one little spot to stand in. There's no push button. It feels very unsafe as a refuge island. So we want to address that and look at that. So what we're planning on doing is fixing those refuges so we can provide that required 6-foot space of refuge for a pedestrian crossing and also have that push button in the intersection. So it would essentially look like this, where you have curb line protecting you on both sides. You have 6 feet of refuge, and there'll be a push button in the middle there so that you have somewhere safer to stand if you get caught in the intersection. And here's an example of what that could look like when it's built, where we have those curb lines on both sides, there's push buttons in the middle there. It's a refuge island where you aren't standing right next to traffic, but you have a place to stand. This project is also looking at the 2nd Street intersection out here. So there are a couple things that we want that need to be addressed with this intersection, and the DOT performed a traffic study to look at what would be maybe the best options to address those problems. First off is we have a high pedestrian crossing movement here on the east side of that intersection. In a 48-hour period, we counted 130 pedestrians crossing at this intersection here right across by Perkins. Here's a security camera photo showing a person crossing and where that is happening down there. It's a very prevalent move, and it's not delineated. There's no crossing there. It's not a very safe thing to do on a high volume roadway that has a lot of traffic on it. And also, we're seeing a total of 51 crashes in the study period that the DOT did on this, mostly between the southbound movement and the westbound movement there. We're getting these angle crashes that are very common. And so these are some of these safety concerns that we want to address with this. So what are we planning on doing with this? What DOT's report indicated is that we want to look at possibly removing the southbound left turns out there to prevent those angle crashes of people trying to dart out across 4 lanes of traffic to get to that eastbound lane out there. We also want to add a nice pedestrian crossing over here that's delineated, it's marked, we can have vehicles stop for us so that pedestrians can safely cross in this high traffic area. And what that pedestrian crossing will look like is we want to add these, what they're called is a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. And so they're pedestrian activated, you push a button on it, and it has these flashing lights that are specifically designed to grab attention with the pattern that they do. It grabs your attention. It has a high success rate of having vehicles stop for it and allowing the recognition that a pedestrian's there waiting to cross. So we want to add those to this, along with a high visibility crosswalk here with signage to allow that for the crossing. So on a ground view, as you go west or eastward here, this is essentially what it would look like. We have Perkins here, McDonald's is just off the screen over here. So we're driving past here, we have these signage that may yield, we have a crossing coming up here. We have a pedestrian activated flashing beacon, so these are shining at you. They can cross to several refuges going across the intersection. It should be a much safer way for pedestrians to get through this area and hopefully avoid any accidents in the future. And we're looking at doing these safety measures specifically because the FHWA has done a lot of study on these, and they're proven safety measures that have shown to reduce accident probability at these intersections. So this rectangular rapid flashing beacon, that flashing light that I showed you there, the Federal Highway has studied it, and they say that there's about a 47% reduction in crash rates when these are implemented out there. So that's a huge benefit. Also, with the high visibility crosswalk and the signages that they have out there, we're seeing like a 40% reduction with the visibility of the crosswalk and the extra signage, another 25% reduction in that crash rate. And so these are some highly beneficial, low-cost items that we can implement here to improve the crossing and make it a safer environment. Next is Washington Street. I want to talk about what changes we'll be doing on that as well. And the changes on Washington Street are a lot more minor compared to what we're doing on Expressway. And basically, what the intent of the changes include is to increase the parking queue length that we have for people making the left-bound turns, the northbound and southbound left turns here. Right now, the turn lanes are, per the study, they're a little bit inadequate. We want to increase them as much as we can to improve the operation of the intersection and allow for the best flow of traffic. We will see a small reduction in the turn lane here going into the Elks Lodge, and then on the south side here going to Denver Drive, we have to reduce those a little bit to accommodate the longer turn lanes. But that's mostly what we're doing on Washington Street. Another improvement that we will be doing is just restriping the right turn lane and allowing people to make a through movement, a through right for that turn also. So it can be an additional capacity turn lane for people wanting to go through and make a right after the intersection. So there's always impacts with these projects. First off, who pays for these projects? Where is the money coming from? This project has a very high federal a federal matching rate is what I want to say. The federal highway is paying 90% of this project because it's a safety project. They want to really promote these safety type projects that have a high benefit with a low cost. The remaining 10% is split between the state government, the DOT, and then 5%, and local with 5%. And I spoke with Gabe, the city engineer here, and he said that the local 5%, historically, the city commission has used the city sales tax to pay for these types of local fundings on here. The ultimate decision will be them, and they can choose to do something else, but that's historically what we would expect them to decide to do on this. And if ever they chose to try to bring it about as an assessment, there would be a protest period and go through the regular assessment process, but it's very unlikely that will happen, and you'll be notified if that ever does go that way. Another impact, obviously, is construction out here. The construction of the project will have a capacity impact to this corridor. As you can see, we can't dictate exactly, or we don't know exactly how the construction will go out here. We can only put some restraints on the contractor, some requirements to phase his construction, and the ultimate phasing of the construction plan will be his decision. But requirements such as he has to provide through lanes for both directions at all times during the project. He has to provide left turn lanes at all times for the businesses and provide temporary access through construction to the businesses as well along the project. So these are some of the requirements we'll put on him. To accomplish that, this will likely be built in 3 phases. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Basically, in order to accommodate the through lanes and the turn lanes, it'd have to be about a 3-phase construction out there, unless something such as night construction is used. There might be some flexibility to do some alternate methods in that. But this is likely what you'll end up seeing with construction. And I'm sure that all of you have a little bit of a question about, okay, you guys just worked on Washington Street all of last summer. Why are we going here again? That was a horrible, long construction period, and we don't want that. So what happened last summer? The construction project last summer, it was, I believe, triggered mostly, or a big part of it was triggered by the need to do a water main project on this. They were doing a lot of water line improvements, deep earth improvements, so that's why it was dug up for such a long period of time. And going back after that, they had to reestablish the roadway, and they decided to use concrete to do that. And so it wasn't a reconfiguration of the intersection. The existing median here never changed with the project they built last summer. They basically kept the same configuration, kept as much existing surface improvements in place as they could, and improved the pavement out there when they did this. What our project intends to do is to move that median curb so that we can increase the turn lane of that northbound left turn there We would keep as much of the existing improvements in place as possible. You know, we don't want to waste money, obviously. There's no need to take that up. We can maintain two lanes of traffic the majority of the time with only very limited disruption in that. So it'll be very minor disruption with very minor changes to this intersection with this project. And I want to remind you that this will be a 2023 construction, so that won't be happening this summer. It'll be the following summer. So you'll have a break here. And this is just a kind of a more detailed view. This is a clip from the project that was built last summer in the layout of it. And I just want to emphasize that the existing curb line here, it didn't change. It's still there. You know, we'll be taking it out with this, so it's not a waste of money that they rebuilt last summer. We aren't wasting that. And what we're doing is we have to take out a few panels of the concrete on this side here in order to move the new curb line over to accommodate the new turn pockets. So we'll be keeping as much of the existing improvements in place as possible and having as little impact as possible with these improvements. And again, that's a 23 construction. That kind of wraps up a lot of my presentation here. So we want to hear from you, and we want to have documentation of what you guys think of this project. Are there parts you like, parts you don't like? We want to know what those are. And so there are several ways to tell us that. You can feel free to email me. We have, I believe my contact information is on the packets that we provided here at the beginning. There's also comment cards in a basket right over there. So please feel free to fill out a comment card, write down your thoughts, and just get it over with. And we'll make this part of the record so that the decision makers that will be deciding on what goes forward with this project, they'll be able to see that and know how you feel about the project. You can also feel free to mail me a hard letter if you want, a physical letter, that's perfectly acceptable, or give me a call and then I'll document that. And all of my contact information, this slide is on those packets, so you can feel free to contact me and get those in the record.